time for our latest segment of Future Shock 2.0 with Ira Wolfe. Ira Wolfe, there's a lot going on in the essential services that drive the American economy among bus drivers and people who do a lot of the daily chores that grease the wheels of the economy, and some shocking revelations recently.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me back. There's a story that just popped up this week for me, and it just unleashed a whole avalanche of kind of research. Over the past weekend, there was a group of visitors from the Lehigh Valley where I live, not too far from New York, about 90 miles away. And they hopped on their bus for a day of shopping, visiting museums, meeting up with friends, going to theater, whatever it might be. It's a beautiful fall day. And at the end of the day, they returned to the Port Authority. Harsh reality, their trips were canceled. The return trips were scheduled at 4:15, 6:15, 9:15, and they just weren't going to happen. And the question is why? They didn't have any bus drivers. There's no way to take them home. So the travelers, everybody was left stranded and frustrated. A couple of people found their way about. I don't have answers of what happened to the rest of the people. Well, you know me, John, and like a dog on a bone, when I hear about a labor shortage like that, it led me to do some research and investigation. And I found that this was just the tip of the iceberg. So according to a recent American Public Transportation Association survey of 117 transit agencies across the country. So this is the SEPTAs and the metros and all across all the big cities. 71% reported they have either had to cut service or delay service because of worker shortfalls. So it's not only bus drivers, it's mechanics and everything else. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on an episode about the public sector. So like in the city of Philadelphia, there's 7,000 open jobs. They can't find enough people to even fill their academies for policemen and firemen and paramedics and building inspectors. More than 9 out of 10 of these public transportation agencies said that they were having difficulty hiring new people, nearly 2/3 struggling to retain them. So, this may not affect a lot of people, especially on other episodes. We talked about the difference between high income earners and low income earners. But public transportation is how many low income workers get to work. It's too expensive to live near the good jobs. With less access and higher costs, it only adds to their financial burden. And it further cuts back on an employer's ability to access labor. But that's not the end of the crisis, because 88% of schools are dealing with bus driver shortages. That's according to Hop, Skip, Drive. And why does that matter? Well, 67% of schools said they believe there's a direct link between attendance and transportation. 61% reported having issues with chronic absenteeism, which goes in line with another report that we just had this week that our reading scores and math scores are plummeting. So if kids can't get to school, that's a whole other problem. That's a whole other segment we'll do in the future. But at the beginning of the pandemic crisis, we heard a lot about essential and non-essential workers. That seems to have slipped off our radar. We don't hear about it much anymore. But many essential jobs, such as bus drivers, help sustain and grow our economy, because as lower paying jobs that seem to be the ones that are mostly unfilled, we need to find a way for people to get there reliably. So here's one more stat that just popped up, and this fits into this essential worker thing. Childcare. The U.S. today, in 2022, fall of 2022, has 10% fewer childcare workers than it did at the start of the pandemic. 100,000 workers less. But that's not the most telling stat. It seems we are willing to pay dog walk 59 cents more per hour to walk and play with our dogs than we are to take care of our kids so their parents can go to work. I don't even know where to go with that one. Maybe you have an answer. You can help me, John. But we seriously need to reevaluate how we treat and manage our essential workers, because the more unfilled jobs we have, the lower quality of life we will all experience.
Really distressing, but we have to face up to it. The only thing to cheer about maybe is the GDP numbers, and the market has been rallying in October. So we'll have more from you next week, Ira Wolfe. And that was Ira Wolfe with our latest episode of Future Shock 2.0. More from Ira next week. Ira is a workforce and labour trends expert, TEDx talker, guest speaker at many events, and host of the ever popular Geeks, Geezers and Googleization podcast.